Yeah. What's going on, people? Hello. You're welcome to the Puff Puff Show. And I'm your guy, Dr. Timey. And yeah, we've got Young Memphis here again. It's another episode, one of them ones. My guy, what are you saying, fam?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me again, man. It feels like I don't know. The first time I felt really privileged to be here, but now I feel a bit spoiled now.
Yeah, man, bro. You're in the family now, man. So you're gonna be having conversations. And you know how Dr. Timey be now. We just have to have these conversations.
It's necessary, man. Necessary.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier about this whole Chelsea sanction malarkey.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was kind of saying that it's quite interesting that you have a guy like Roman Abramovich, and he happens to be from Russia, where there's quite a lot of goings on with a man like Putin. And you know, the thing is, you know, the world is in kind of like a funny state right now because there are a lot of things happening just about that. But it's having an impact in one of the biggest English clubs in the UK, Chelsea FC. You know what I mean? You know, we're talking about this thing earlier on, and I was like, you know, what do you think a man like Roman Abramovich is feeling like right now, where he has to sell a club that I think everyone kind of feels like it's something that he's proud about? It takes its pride, and I think the fans really love the guy as well. You know, this is energy. You don't need to say it on social media. It seems like that's the energy.
Yeah,
they love this guy, but this situation is happening in Russia with Ukraine.
Yeah,
and a man of that caliber, would definitely be friends with the president.
You'd expect it, I guess. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So what do you think is going on in that kind of man's mind, and, you know, understanding where he's coming from?
Yeah, this, I think it's a bit of a tricky one for me to talk upon, though, to be honest, because
you're a Chelsea fan, aren't you?
I'm a Chelsea fan, so this one
Young Memphis.
It hits home, man. Yeah, Young Memphis on the mic, yeah. But it's a tricky one because there's a moral side to this, but there's also what is a business sort of side to the talk as well, because as a Chelsea fan, right, let's put the whole moral conversation to one side. I'll touch upon it in a minute, but from a Chelsea fan's perspective, this is a man that has made Chelsea probably one of the most successful clubs in Europe at the moment. That was never the case before he became the Chelsea owner. And when he bought Chelsea, I think everybody goes into a business to make profit, but he's a one owner that we've had that literally just liked the club. So for him, right, it was more about the prestige, all the trophies we could win, because we're not really making money when he bought the club. And a couple of years into him buying the club, right, we're still not making money. But the thing is, because he invested so much into the club, we started winning trophies. So he came with Mourinho, we bought some big players, the likes of Drogba, and Chelsea started making noise. But from a financial standpoint, right, Chelsea wasn't actually making money. So you could tell that his motivation wasn't necessarily trying to make money as a business would per se, but he liked the club.
He was passionate about buying the club. That's Chelsea.
So if you think about a club like Manchester United as an example, I mean, I'm not trying to diss Manchester United fans, but the owners they've got, right, the Americans, they run Manchester United as a business. So first and foremost, right, it's got to make money. Right. So prices are hiked up. Season tickets, match day tickets are quite expensive, but they didn't necessarily invest that much in the players to start with. Now compared to Chelsea, right, where the owner actually has plumbed so much money into the club itself, but from a financial perspective, from a business perspective, it wasn't actually making that much money. So we had an owner, right, that was so invested in the club itself and winning trophies and the prestige and building up the profile of Chelsea as a football, as a successful football club. So we're going to miss that as Chelsea fans, because we're probably going to be later the fact that he's been sanctioned and he's been stripped of ownership of the club. Pretty much he can't be the owner of Chelsea anymore. But we're going to lose someone who loved the club through and through. But obviously because of his association with Putin and the Kremlin and the rest of it, and what's going on in Ukraine at the moment, from a moral standpoint, it makes sense for why he has been sanctioned. And him being Russian and being close to Putin, he hasn't actually come out and categorically
denied the relationship, or kind of like disapproved of what Putin's about.
Correct. So he did this thing where he sort of said, you know what, I'm going to hand the day-to-day running of Chelsea to the Chelsea Foundation. So from an image perspective, right, Roman Abramovich is not the person running Chelsea on a day-to-day basis, but he still owns Chelsea. So he came out and made these statements: I'm going to hand over the control of Chelsea and the day-to-day running of Chelsea to Chelsea Foundation. But in that statement, which is what a lot of people were looking for, if I'm being honest, was for him to come out and also condemn what was happening in Ukraine. But obviously him being Russian and being close to Putin, there was no way that was ever going to be the case. And I think from that point onwards, points, there was only one thing that was going to happen from there in terms of he was going to get sanctioned.
Yeah.
And his assets were going to get frozen, and Chelsea being one of his assets will be frozen as well. So from a moral standpoint, I understand why what has been done by the UK government had to be done.
Yeah, but you know the thing though, a moral standpoint, but what it's a sticky one, isn't it? Like, how do you get someone in that position to tell someone who's that powerful? But you know what that thing got me thinking. Number one, before we go into talking about other things about this whole thing, is this might be a silly talk, but imagine say you get a friend we won't go to war. Like your close pal wants to go to war, guy. Like being put in that position, there's an emotional factor to it. There's a loyalty issue to it.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? And we never know what history these people have when they're in relationships. But you're in a relationship with someone that what he's about to do or what he's currently doing is not something that morally people agree with. Like, it's just not right. But man, it's difficult being a human being. When they talk say problem no they finish, there's a big problem to have.
It is, and I think if you put away the fact that him and Putin might be close friends or business colleagues and the rest of it, this is his country, so he's Russian. So it's almost like you're asking him to come out and call out his country for trying to fight for what they believe in.
Yeah.
Because the whole concept of this whole war in Ukraine is Russia are trying to build back the Soviet Union as it was before. And Ukraine has a very close border to Russia. And Russia feel that they're very, very open to attacks from the West if Ukraine eventually became part of NATO.
All right.
Which is what Ukraine have been trying to become a part of NATO and part of the
EU
for a while now.
Which means they give overpower to the Western state, because obviously if you're sharing borders and those people are the Western state allies, then entry into your place can happen at any time if they need to.
That's it. Because all they need to do is, if there was a situation between the West and Russia, because Ukraine is part of NATO, hypothetically, all they need to do is get their armed forces to the border of Ukraine and they are ready to strike Russia. And like I said, they're so close to Russia, so Russia are so vulnerable. So what Putin is trying to do is he's trying to strategically position Ukraine that they can't be part of NATO and his country is not sort of susceptible to attacks in the future if anything ever happened. So you can see why he's trying to protect his own interest, as it were. I'm sure this is going to be controversial, me saying he's trying to protect his own interest.
But no, you got to read it in different ways, man, because this is truly what's happening. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is what's going through a lot of people's mind. You know what I mean? Yes, a lot of the times we just want to focus on the fact that what he's doing is immoral to a lot of people's standards, but you have to think about it. Look at this human being and look at what he believes in. Look at his mindset. The fact that he's willing to hurt other people. And you see, this is where you start looking at different things like fear, like just having to live in fear. That you think a president of that level who portrays to be very confident, by the way,
he's a tough guy, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a tough guy, could be reacting out of fear. And it's just interesting because now you get to involve someone else like Roman Abramovich into this context, who now has to put himself in a place where he has to choose where his loyalties are.
Correct. Are you going to be loyal to your country or birth and pursue what the country's leadership believe is the right thing for the country, or are you going to be a traitor to your own country, as they would say it, and support a bigger message, which is what pretty much all of us believe is the right thing, and say, no, you shouldn't be attacking a sovereign country for reasons that are probably very archaic. So it's a tough one for Roman Abramovich, but I can understand why he hasn't come out and denounced what's happening in Ukraine at the moment.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I think that there will always be that thing where people are always loyal to someone or a surrounding that's similar. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you could take it down to even Nigeria, where you've got different tribes. Tribes would be loyal to fellow tribes if anything was to cut out. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's almost like it's always difficult to say, oh, I'm going against my country, when you kind of know your country is almost like your tribe and would always back you up. Being in a situation like this, where a football club like Chelsea has individual players, young players, experiencing this whole thing in their era, where they have an owner who they suddenly found out, by the way, on a bus trip, I think, to their games, some of them on their mobile phones, about this sanction because of what's going on and how that was going to affect the club. That gives a different level of loyalty, because the team went out and I think they beat,
I think it was Norwich we played it.
It was Norwich. It was 3-1, wasn't it?
I think it was that.
Do you know what I mean? And I think they must have played out of loyalty as well. The passion of being loyal to someone who has brought that team to a level of where basically in England, I think the impact that he probably had was one that players started getting paid very, very high wages.
Yeah, he changed the whole structure of the Premiership and how much money was being spent in the Premiership as a business in itself. Because he came in with this big cash that he invested in the club in buying players, came in with big name manager, players that were in the club probably got pay rises, and the players that came in because were big name players came in with quite big weekly wages. So all of a sudden you're in the Premiership with, say, Drogba as an example. This is just conversation more than anything else, and he's all of a sudden earning 100k a week, and maybe 100k a week wasn't something that was even considered by other players. So all of a sudden you've got somebody that's earning 100k a week, so that makes you, as a player that was earning 30, think to yourself, actually, if he can earn 100k, so that means I potentially could earn 50 then. So that means the next time you sort of request for sort of new terms on your contract, you're asking for 50k, whereby before Abramovich came in and before Drogba hypothetically started getting paid £100,000 a week, he never even thought it was even possible to earn anything more than 40. So the sort of mindsets of players became different, because now they felt they could demand more, and they started demanding more. So he came in with this influx of big money into the Premiership, and that's what has changed to a large extent how much money clubs spend on players' wages, which is pretty much 70 to 80% of their sort of wage, of their sort of bills they have to sort of account for on a seasonal basis. But again, going back to the whole Russia alliance, again, I'm totally against what's happening in Ukraine, because I just think it should never have happened, because you've got innocent people dying for no reason, like it could all have been avoided. But you see the game with Norwich we were just talking about, I think there was an aspect whereby there was that allegiance of sort of trying to say, everybody is against Chelsea at the moment because we're a club that's owned or was owned by a Russian. So we're the bad guys now, so we've got to go out there, everybody's against us, we've got to prove a point, and we've got to sort of stick together and try and win this game, which is what they did. But in that same game as well, that was the game whereby the Chelsea fans got condemned because they were chanting out Abramovich's name in support of him. And people were like, that's a bit insensitive, right? You've got people that are being bombed, innocent people that are being killed. And you're just fans there obviously chanting the name of a Russian guy who has not actually come out openly to denounce what's happening in Ukraine.
But look, this is the other thing about it, right? Is it really wrong for you to enjoy a football game because of that?
I mean, no one was saying they couldn't enjoy the football game. I think what was wrong was the fact that they were chanting the name of the owner, who is Russian and has links to Putin and the Kremlin.
And you think, okay, it was not sensitive.
It's very insensitive to the Ukrainians that are being bombed at the moment by Russia, by a close pal of the Chelsea owner. I mean, like I said, I'm a Chelsea fan, but I'm trying to be objective here, right?
And that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm exactly, and that's what I'm trying to understand. Because the thing is that some people will have that argument that am I not supposed to enjoy a football game and just be in my element, but
there's nothing that stops you from enjoying a football game without chanting.
But I know, people have to be very respectful as well. Did you get what I'm saying? You have to understand when things like that are not nice, but I think sometimes, like for instance, I there's been a lot of comedy. Even I've done a skit on this whole thing.
Have you?
Yeah, bro. Okay. But the thing is, sometimes I just feel like people don't always get the fact that these things happen. And for me, I've always said, look, I believe in God. And the thing there is that regardless of what happens, I'm going to try and live my life to the best. So you have to always understand that you're privileged to even be alive. It doesn't necessarily mean you become insensitive or not jovial about life. But at the end of the day, you will have your moments where things are not going to be going nice.
No, 100%, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So in sense of it, you can't always be too serious all the time. But I get the bit about the fact that, you shouldn't be chanting out in a football game all together, his name. You've got to be sensitive because, there might be other people in there who've lost family members.
No, 100%. I'm not sure if you've heard about this. There's a phrase called, you got to try and always read the room.
Yeah.
So it's almost like sort of saying you walk into a space and everybody has like a somber sort of outlook. You can't walk into the room and actually start jumping and raving when everybody in the room has a very somber outlook. You've got to be able to read the room and read the vibe and read the atmosphere. And that's what people were saying the Chelsea fans missed, in the sense that the whole world at the moment was pretty much, the whole world except for Russia and maybe China, were pretty much in condemnation of what Russia were doing in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Then Chelsea fans have failed to read the atmosphere, read the room, and actually are chanting the name of a man that has very close ties with the man perpetrating this issue that people are not happy with. So you can't be, as Chelsea fans, saying for the sake of enjoying the game, you're going to chant someone's name that you probably don't have to and still enjoy the game.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. But the thing is this makes me think about the fact that sometimes this is the cost of being successful, because you never be, no one just knows the president just like that. You know what I'm saying? Guy, you need to hold bread now.
No, you need high level connections.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, what I'm saying. So, man, problem no they finish. I'll say that again. But yeah, man, it's just one of those things where you just think about it. It's affecting the football club. It's affecting players mentally now. People are not sure about their future. People have look, this is the thing about life. This is why I always say to myself, look, listen, you got to back yourself, and you got to back yourself tight. Always look after you, those around you. But the thing is, you always have to believe that the buck stops with you, bro.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Because in this situation now, the players can't get into that mental state where they say, oh, it's because of the Ukrainians not agreeing with this, because there will be people who have that viewpoint saying that, oh, why don't you just, join with the Russians, blah, blah, blah. If you're like, do you understand? But, they also have to think about it like we're also human beings. People have their own rights to think the way they need to think. So in that scenario, you have to be thinking about just you. How do I get out of this? What is going to be the best way for me to deal with this issue, especially if you got a family, right? You got to dig yourself out. And this is something that just come out of the blue of nowhere. People who have ambitions to win trophies,
I think I was saying to you before, I think the guys who are in the Chelsea academy, as an example, the guys that are in the first team, guys that are in the youth team and the rest of it, I don't think they've got anything to worry about, because at the end of the day, the fact that they're associated with a very big brand, Chelsea, they should be fine, because I think they wouldn't struggle in terms of finding, if they needed to leave, which I think a lot of them would not leave. But I think it's that bad. I think once we give this a couple of weeks or months, well, maybe not months, once we find a new buyer, things would eventually stabilize. But I think the only issue with Chelsea is we're not going to have the same level of investment from a financial standpoint, but I don't think players would have worries about not getting paid their wages. That's never going to be the case, because somebody's going to buy Chelsea.
You reckon?
Yeah, 100%. It's such a big club, and it's such a prestigious club. I mean, I might be biased by saying as a Chelsea fan, but that's just the case. Such a successful club.
Yeah.
Champions League winners, Club World Cup winners.
Yeah.
It's been on an upward trajectory for the last couple of years. So it's a good sort of brand to invest money in. So I'm not worried about us getting bought by someone that can afford to buy Chelsea. But the whole thing has to settle down for the next couple of weeks. And once that settles, I think the only thing I'm worried about is there's probably going to be a lack of investment in either buying Chelsea or developing the ground and the rest of the like. Apart from that, I'm not worried about Chelsea. But it's, like I said before, it's a tricky one for me, because it's a bittersweet one. It's bitter in the sense that we're losing someone who has loved the club and invested a lot of money into the club. But sweet, maybe not the right phrase to use, but I can see the reason why this has to be done, because it's just a bad outlook. Yeah.
Honestly, it's just amazing that so many things can happen off just one event.
No, 100%.
Yeah, so I don't know. I want to be a successful person, but I don't want no person who won't go to war. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that's just not a comfortable place to be in, man. Like that's that's just not nice.
I mean, I'm sure neither one of us will claim to be experts at this topic matter we're talking about now, but I think ultimately I don't think Abramovich would have sort of foreseen. I know obviously Putin is this big bravado guy who likes to come across as being very tough and the rest of it, right? But I don't think Abramovich would have foreseen
this coming
per se. He probably knew about it maybe the last year or so, because Russia have been sort of juxtaposing, right, the last couple of months or year two, that this might happen. They've been trying to sort of raise their shoulder up and say, listen, right, Ukraine, you can be trying to join the, NATO and the rest of it, because you're part of us, you should be part of us, you should be part of the Soviet Union. So you could probably sense that this was going to happen, but a lot of people talked about it, but nobody actually ever believed that he would go ahead and invade Ukraine.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make here is, in as much as Abramovich must have had a sense of it, I don't think he would have truly believed that this would actually happen.
Yeah.
So there's no way he would have been able to protect himself beforehand, because even though he knew this was happening, right, he would have sold Chelsea like a year or a couple of months ago and not waited until now to try and sell the club, or to the last minute. He would have done it before now. So it's a shame.
It's an interesting one, man. It's just a sticky one.
What's your take on? I mean, like I said, none of us will probably profess to be experts at this whole Ukraine-Russia thing, but what's your take on it?
It's a very sticky one, because at the end of the day, we don't really know what it's like to be Russian. Although I did see something on the TV the other time saying that Nigerians and Asians, I think, were experiencing some kind of stuff in Ukraine, right? Yeah. What was it? Do you know a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. I think I know what you're on about now. So I've seen this in the news as well. I haven't really done my research into this, but apparently, also with the whole situation in Ukraine, everybody's trying to get out, everybody's trying to get to safety, everyone's trying to get to Poland or to bordering countries that they could probably have some form of safety. And Indians and Africans, I'll say Africans in general, and Nigerians inclusive of that, have struggled, have had issues with trying to get out, because they've been sort of, use the word loosely, they've been discriminated against. So say for instance you're on the platform waiting for a train that's probably meant to be going to Poland, right? And the authorities, that's the army or the police that were at the station, were intentionally stopping Indians or black people from boarding the trains. And only nationals, Ukraine nationals, were able to board the train.
Wow.
Which is clear discrimination. It almost feels like your life doesn't matter. So we're gonna get, even if you were there before us, we're gonna get in and you're not gonna get in.
But bro, this is the thing. This opens another type of conversation, because it goes back to what I was talking about when I said that people are always loyal to their own, right? You're gonna get the same thing. So in this context, it's kind of like, when you start looking at it from who's right, who's wrong, there's always different perspective to this thing.
I know it's a dog eat dog environment in that sort of setup, right? But at the end of the day, humanity should actually come through, because we're all humans at the end of the day. If I was on the platform before you, I was at a position to get on a train before you, I shouldn't be stopped from getting on the train because of the color of my skin. It doesn't make me any less of a human because I'm not a Ukraine national. So at the end of the day, my life is as important as the next person stood on the platform.
And I totally agree with you. But this is the reality we live in, though. I totally agree with you, but this is the reality we live in, that as a black person living in the Western world, we tend to just sugarcoat that thing, that you're never going to be in that position where when things like this are happening and people are riddled with fear, right, they would always do what they need to do to back their own. We've never really been in that position where we can actually say by merit we get things our way because it's the right way. We always fall short, and I always say, for me, right, I always say partly the reason why we get to this position is also we don't really support each other. And when that time comes where you need to back each other, no one's there to be found. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with you.
So it's just sticky in so many places, man. Like you want to think about that scenario and you want to say, oh no, it's about humanity, but really we've just never been in that situation where we get the right things done for us because that's just the right thing that needs to be done.
But the thing is, I think it's quite ironic though, because I was looking at the bigger picture when I heard about this whole setting and people getting discriminated against. I was thinking to myself, we're all watching a very terrible situation in Ukraine at the moment. Innocent people are getting killed, so you're feeling sorry for them on one sense. On the other sense, you're thinking to yourself, hold on, but these same people that are in such a bad situation are now discriminating against fellow humans that look more like me in the same situation that they are. So even in the midst of their inconvenience, or even in the midst of their own turmoil, they are still comfortable enough to show that form of discrimination to somebody else. So like I said, it's a bit of a strange one.
But hey, bro, this is why the conversation is tricky, because yes, it's about the whole Abramovich thing, but there's a lot of impact on every level that you can think that what he's doing in terms of Putin now, it's causing, like, there's so many things. Like these guys who have been asked to leave Russia or experiencing these discriminations are probably also finding it difficult when it comes to finances now. Things are probably going left a little bit more.
Yeah.
Families are probably struggling. Families who migrated to be able to, earn a living are now finding it difficult. Like, war is just not the nicest thing, man, because it causes so many problems everywhere. These guys are probably not expected that this is going to be what they're going to be dealing with, where they think, okay, fine, we're experiencing war together, white or black, but I'm not going to be getting to the point where I'm experiencing discrimination as well.
Yeah, and it's a shame though, because a lot of these people experiencing the so-called discrimination, not so-called, experiencing this discrimination at the moment, are pretty much students, international students. These are students that have gone to Ukraine to either study for a master's degree or an undergraduate, whatever it is. So they're probably out there by themselves, no family, no line of people to assist them. So now you're now dependent on society to assist you, and if the society you're depending on, because you haven't got family, they are now the same society trying to discriminate against or discriminating against and not valuing your own life. Where do you turn to? Because you've got no sort of network. If the only network you have is the community, and they're the ones perpetrating this act towards you, so it's difficult.
Yeah, bro, it's difficult, man. The world needs some love. You gotta be showing some love right now, some kindness, from the heart. Let the Lord guide you.
That's it.
But hey, whatever it is, let's stay at peace. Let's be gentle. It's been interesting, and good to have you here, young Memphis.
No, thanks for having me on again.
Another interesting one, guys. You need to check out our Instagram, man. We need some people like listening to this podcast now. Your guy, Dr. Timey, I know they do Shakara again now. Let me just ask these people straight up, man.
Go and tell them then.
You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, you're enjoying the conversation, so hit me on Instagram, man. It's the Puff Puff Show, and Dr. Timey official. Guys, you know what it is now. We're gonna be tuning some Puff Puff. I'm sure you've kind of picked one or two here. Hot, nice, and good. Anyway, until next time, I'm your guy, Dr. Timey. Easy does it.